We're usually presented with a sort of false dichotomy when it comes to race. It either exists biologically, it's biologically real, or it's a social construct and therefore fake. I don't believe in either of these, because just because something is a social construct doesn't mean it's fake or not real. I uphold social constructs. Social constructs are incredibly important to society. There'd be no human society without social construction. And things which are socially constructed and social constructions do exist. They are real, but they're not real in the same sense that this cotton swab is real. You can't pick up a social construction. You can't touch it. It doesn't exist like that, but it does exist. And a way of testing whether or not something is a social construction or exists physically is would it exist if everyone stopped thinking it exists? For instance, even if everyone on Earth stopped believing in the existence of this cotton swab, it would still exist. But a social construct like the government is a social construct. If right now, in a thought experiment, everyone were to theoretically forget that the United States government existed, it would stop existing until someone remembered it existed and it'd come back into existence. So yes, I know that will never happen, but it's a thought experiment, so bear with me on here. And race is the same way. If everyone on Earth suddenly had amnesia when it comes to what the word race means, race would stop existing. So if everyone just stopped believing in it, it would go away. But people don't think like that. In the real world, people do believe in race. They do believe it has significance. And because of that, it's sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy to where it creates separate cultures depending on this racial social construction. So it exists as a social construction, and it should be understood as a social construction. Hence, race changes, evolves over time. So it does exist, but really only in our heads. And I'm sure you can argue about how certain ethnic groups, you can tell physical differences, like people from Europe have different nose holes, and they have these, like, the eye goes in a bit, whereas like in Asia it doesn't do this thing that European eyes do where they go in a bit. And people from certain areas don't have a bottom eyelid, and that's a racial thing. But no, that's really a geological reality. People from certain geographic areas evolve differently. But when I say evolve, I don't mean evolve so differently that they're now different races. There's just slight mutations and slight little variations from where they're at. So these variations aren't big enough to make a race happen. And as you can tell, I'm very influenced by a biology professor I had in college. So go ahead, if you're right-winger, and say I've been brainwashed by my liberal professor. He was pretty convincing that race doesn't exist biologically, but it exists in our heads. So keep that in mind when it comes to race. That it's you should never say that certain people are a certain way because of their race, beyond just slight physical variations, and that it exists simply as a cultural artifact. And that's all.